All right, today we're jumping into South India to talk about a dynasty that did something pretty incredible. They didn't just build temples, they literally carved them out of the earth itself. This is the story of the Pallavas, the true sentinels of stone. So let me ask you something that sounds, well, impossible. How on earth do you build a temple, a massive, intricate temple, from a single, solid hillside? You don't stack bricks up, you carve everything down. How is that even possible? Well, the people who figured it out were the Pallavas. We're talking about a powerful dynasty that not only ruled a huge part of South India, but became absolute masters of working with stone, completely changing the game for architecture in the region forever.
So, let's get our bearings. Who exactly were the Pallavas? They were a major power for about 500 years, from the 4th to the 9th century. Their capital was a city called Kanchipuram. And you've got to understand, this wasn't just a place for politics. It was a buzzing hub of culture and learning, and it's where they cooked up this revolutionary new style for building temples.
And that style has a name, the Dravidian temple style. The best way to think about it is like architectural DNA. The Pallavas wrote the original source code. They set the blueprint that later dynasties, like the legendary Cholas, would use to build their own mind-blowing temples.
But, before you can create a legacy in stone, you gotta build a kingdom first. So let's take a quick look at how they actually rose to power.
Okay, so their story kicks off around the 4th century, but things really get serious in the 6th century. A king named Simhavishnu shows up, smacks down his rivals, and establishes a really strong, stable kingdom. And that stability is absolutely crucial because it sets the stage for one of the most important people in our story, his son, Mahendravarman I.
And here we go. This is where the real revolution begins. Mahendravarman I wasn't just another king. He had this spark of genius, an idea that would just completely upend everything people thought they knew about building.
You see, Mahendravarman was a true visionary. He loved the arts, and he wasn't satisfied with the old ways of building with brick and timber. He was the one who championed that wild idea we started with. Why not carve our temples directly out of solid rock?
Just think about how wild this process is. It's completely backwards from how we think of construction. You're not adding anything, you're taking away. You find a giant granite boulder or a whole cliff face, and you just start carving into it, hollowing out massive halls, shaping intricate pillars. It's not architecture by addition, it's architecture by subtraction.
So what was driving this incredible creative energy? Well, a lot of it was faith. Mahendravarman actually started out following Jainism. But later in life, he converted to Shaivism, becoming a passionate devotee of the god Shiva. And this spiritual change lit a fire under him, inspiring him to create these massive, permanent temples carved in stone as an act of devotion.
After Mahendravarman, the throne passed to the dynasty's most famous and powerful ruler. This guy was as brilliant on the battlefield as his father was with architecture. Welcome to the age of Mamala.
So this is Narasimhavarman I? He earned the nickname Mamala, which means the great wrestler, and that name tells you everything you need to know about him. He was a formidable, powerful, and relentless character.
And oh boy, did he live up to that name. Mamala wasn't just a patron of the arts, he was a conqueror. He took on his dynasty's biggest rival, the Chalukyan king Pulakeshin II, and defeated him. He even marched his army all the way to their capital city of Vatapi and captured it. These victories brought in a ton of wealth and power, which is exactly what you need to fund some of the most ambitious building projects in history.
And he funneled so much of that energy and wealth into one spectacular place, the coastal town of Mahabalipuram. Under Mamala, it wasn't just a busy port city. It became his personal architectural canvas, a giant, open-air workshop for his brilliant craftsmen.
And the masterpieces they created there are still standing today. We're talking about the stunning shore temple right on the coast and the incredible Pancharathas, the 5 chariots, where each entire temple is carved from a single massive piece of granite. This was it. This was the absolute peak of the rock-cut style.
But here's the thing about the Pallavas. They never stopped innovating. The story doesn't end with rock-cut temples. The next generation took another giant leap, and this time, they started building towards the sky.
So the next great innovator on the scene is Narasimhavarman II, who also went by the name Raja Simha. He looked at all the incredible work his ancestors had done, carving into the earth, and he thought, okay, what's next? How do we push this even further?
And this slide really shows the monumental shift in thinking.
They moved from that subtractive process, carving away stone, to an additive one. For the first time, they started building with individual blocks of stone, stacking them one on top of the other. It was a complete game changer, allowing them to build taller, more complex freestanding structures, like the breathtaking Kailasanatha temple. I mean, think about it. They went from carving mountains to literally building them.
Now, their political power wouldn't last forever. No empires does. But their influence, that was permanent. They left behind a legacy that was truly cast in stone.
And it's so important to remember that they were more than just warriors and builders. The Pallavas were huge patrons of culture and learning, supporting brilliant scholars who wrote in both Sanskrit and Tamil. And it was under their rule that the Bhakti movement, this wave of personal devotional worship, really flourished and swept across South India.
So, what happened to them? Well, it's a classic story. Centuries of constant warfare with their rivals slowly but surely wore them down and weakened the dynasty. And that created a power vacuum, an opening for the next great power to rise, the Cholas. And in the 9th century, the Cholas finally defeated the last Pallava rulers and absorbed their kingdom.
But here's the amazing part. Even though the Pallava kingdom was gone, their ideas were more powerful than ever. That architectural DNA we talked about, that revolutionary leap from rock-cut caves to towering structural temples, was passed on directly to the Cholas. And the Cholas took that blueprint and ran with it, building some of the most magnificent temples the world has ever seen.
Which really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? The Pallava Empire is gone, a memory in the history books. But their ideas, their style, their genius, it's still alive, breathing in the stone of countless temples all across South India. So you have to ask yourself, if your ideas outlive your empire, did you truly fall?